endorsed that bill. It said, we strongly support this bill. So the Bush administration went on record strongly in support of federalization back in 2001. Then, a number of years, and it was killed in the House for, there's a long history there which I won't go into. Then, it sort of came to the fore again fairly recently, and let me maybe take you step by step as to, how things went about. When the Democrats took control of Congress, there was renewed interest on, what's going on in the Northern Mariana Islands, and actually, throughout my tenure, we've been working very hard with, whoever was, governor at the time, to, help improve, conditions in the CNMI and help improve the image of the CNMI. And we cooperated with the CNMI. We got a human trafficking bill passed. We signed an agreement to start an asylum system. All of this with the cooperation of the CNMI. So my relationship with whoever happened to be in power at the time had always been very good, and we were making progress. So we were very supportive of the progress that was made. But conditions in the CNMI have been a real challenge. With the economy, the government, has plunging revenues, so it's very hard for the government to do the things that it needs to do. So, in 2006 and early 2007, people in Congress wanted to take a new look about what's going on in the CNMI, and should the federal government take control of immigration. So, as it does for every other territory and state in the United States, except American Samoa and the CNMI. So they asked us a bunch of questions, and we had to respond. We did our best to respond. Then we had a hearing. At the hearing, they asked us, what do we think of the current situation, and are we still in favor of federalization? Because back in 2001, we said we were strongly in favor of federalization. So at the hearing, they asked us, are you still in favor of federalization? And at the hearing, I testified that, look, we're not saying yes, we're not saying no, but if you're going to think about federalization, here are things you have to consider. From memory, number one, we said you have to pay attention to homeland security and national security concerns. Number two, you have to minimize the damage to the economy and maximize the potential for economic growth. Number three, you have to carefully analyze what you're doing, to make sure that you're not going to have a negative impact on the economy. Number four, you have to consult the people of the CNMI, because obviously these are the people that will be affected. And I think there was a 5 too, so it's a lot. Anyway, those are the main things that we said were important. Okay, so after we testified, and at that point, we didn't say we're still for federalization, we didn't say we're against it. The Senate turned around and said, okay, you told us all these things that you have to pay attention to if you want to consider federalization. Why don't you draft a bill and, show us in the form of a bill what it would look like if we took all of your points into account. And that's basically what we did. And I had 902 talks under section 902. I'm the president's representative for talks under the covenant, and Governor Ficciolo, was appointed himself as representative. So back in March, we had 2 days of talks, and I listened to everything they had to say, all the concerns. They were concerned about the economy. Geez, if you cut off the supply of guest workers, our economy will starve. If you cut off the supply of tourists, we need students, we need investors, we need all these things. So I listened very carefully to all these things, and also I went around, talking to as many members of the community as I could. I talked to Chamorros, Carolinians, guest workers from all different countries, I talked to federal officials. Mostly I talked to people in private, but I wanted to get a real sense. I spent 9 days here, and I didn't talk to, if people in here say, well, you never talked to me. I'm sorry, but, if I could, I would. I'm glad I have a chance to now. I really seriously would like to hear the views from as many people as possible. In addition to the government, Governor Fitzgerald and his team, I talked, of course, to P.Day, the resident rep, who also is a leader in his own right. I talked to members of the legislature. Now, when I say I talked to all these people, that doesn't mean that the bill we drafted